In 1789, France exploded into revolution. The Bastille fell. The monarchy collapsed. Heads rolled under the blade of the guillotine. And the world watched in awe and in horror. But across the English Channel, in the quiet halls of Westminster and the smoky coffee houses of London, a question was whispered among the powerful: did Britain have something to do with it? Was the French Revolution a spontaneous uprising? Or was it cleverly stirred from abroad? At first glance, it seems absurd. Why would Britain, the arch rival of France, want to destabilize its neighbor by inciting chaos? And yet, as we look deeper, we find curious fingerprints: British thinkers praising revolution, British publishers translating French radical pamphlets, British officials nervously monitoring unrest. And most importantly, a pattern of historical convenience. But let's begin with the facts. The roots of the French Revolution were internal. Decades of economic crisis, royal extravagance, a tax system that crushed the poor while exempting the elite, and Enlightenment ideals that challenged divine monarchy, all these brewed the perfect storm. France was a powder keg. But did someone light the fuse? In the early years, many British intellectuals celebrated what was happening in France. The Whig politician Charles James Fox called the storming of the Bastille the greatest event that has ever happened in the world. He wasn't alone. British radicals, poets, and reformers hailed the revolution as the rebirth of liberty. Thomas Paine, author of Common Sense and one of the architects of the American Revolution, even traveled to France to support the revolutionaries and joined the National Convention. His writings, including The Rights of Man, directly challenged Britain's own monarchy and helped spread revolutionary ideas across Europe. British newspapers translated French manifestos and circulated them widely. Underground printing presses printed radical ideas faster than the government could suppress them. But the British government wasn't celebrating. It was terrified. Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger saw what was happening in France and feared it could spread to Britain. Riots had broken out in London in recent decades. Reformers were gaining momentum. The last thing Britain's aristocracy wanted was a guillotine rolling down the Thames. So while British radicals praised France, the government cracked down hard. They suspended habeas corpus, banned large public meetings, arrested dozens of reformers, and passed laws against seditious speech. The revolution wasn't inspiring Parliament, it was haunting it. But what about deliberate provocation? Here's where things get murky. Britain had long engaged in covert influence throughout Europe. Spies, agents, and misinformation were tools of empire. And while there's no conclusive proof that Britain created the French Revolution, some historians suggest that British agents may have encouraged chaos during France's most vulnerable moments, especially during the Reign of Terror and the collapse of royal authority. Why? Because a fractured, war-torn France was no longer a threat to British dominance. When the revolution descended into violence, when Robespierre unleashed mass executions, Britain seized the moment. It declared war on France in 1793 and formed coalitions to crush the revolution. But by then, the damage had been done. So what's the truth? The French Revolution was overwhelmingly driven by France's own internal failures: inequality, starvation, political arrogance, and Enlightenment ideals that refused to die. But Britain? It was the mirror, the rival, the cautious spectator, sometimes cheering, sometimes panicking, sometimes just waiting. And while there's no smoking gun, no letter from London ordering the Bastille to be stormed, Britain certainly benefited from France's implosion. At TriviaTales, we know history is full of ghosts and whispers. Not everything is written in ink. Some stories live between the lines. Britain didn't start the French Revolution, but it watched. It reacted. And perhaps It helped ensure that the revolution burned long enough to leave France broken and Britain still standing.